Welcome to Walpole Five-0. I'm Chief John Carmichael. Today is June 27th, 2017. And before we get into the log entries, a few things to mention. Community treasures. I have to recognize Laurie Centilano and Joanne Mulligan from Community Treasures. Absolutely amazing community charity that they've started, and what it does is it helps families in need in Walpole. And they reached out to us to ask if there are certain times when certain crisis might happen in a family, and if we could benefit from having some different things that we can hand out to these families. And it's nothing that would help out really in the long term, but it's something that might help out with the situation and just kind of ease that stressful time that a family might be going through. And as a result, they started this charity. And they raised $1,400 like right off the bat, and they went out and they purchased gift cards for different locations. So it might be a restaurant, it might be an event at the movie theater, or different types of venues that the family can use as a way to get rid of the stress that's caused from this crisis. So basically all for families in need, and Laurie and Joanne are absolute great community citizens, and we thank them for this, and we know that we're going to put this to great use, so thank you very much. I want to mention the Walpole Youth Police Academy. The Junior Police Academy started Monday, and we're in day 2 so far. 30 kids signed up, and 30 kids are still there, so thanks for hanging in there, guys. This is our first time doing this. We've never had a police academy for our youth. It's something we've always wanted to do. Again, it's in response to a citizen survey that we sent out a couple years ago that is a way for us to engage youth in the community and partner up with the kids that are in the class. And by the end of the week, it's a 1-week camp, they would have probably met every Walpole police officer, because we're all down there each day throughout the week, and to meet the kids and to do different things. Now, there is policing is a paramilitary organization, so that means we have rank and we have structure. So there is a drill and ceremony aspect to this. And so the kids fall into formation, and our drill instructors, who happen to be Officer Crown and Officer Bethany, are actually trained drill instructors from the Transit Police Academy and the Walpole Police Department. So they put the kids through drill and ceremony, and that is to establish respect and discipline. It's to get the kids out of their comfort zone and then recover from it quickly. So after they go through drill and ceremony, to get into the classroom setting, and that's when officers will come in and teach the kids on different aspects of their expertise. So we've done drug resistance education already and implemented the fatal vision goggles, where kids have to do different types of scenarios where they have to wear the vision goggles. We did the MOP unit. Our motorcycle officers showed them how to use radar, and the kids actually went out onto Washington Street and we ran some radar. So the traffic was very slow, so nobody was speeding at that time. Officer Foley did crash reconstruction, and today we visited court, the Transit Police Academy, and then after this afternoon we did self-defense techniques. Officer Crown, Officer Bethany, Officer Hart, Officer Songen, Benner, Kevlich, Thayer, all of these guys have all been very involved in this. And as I mentioned, every Walpole police officer, including myself, will be down there during the week. And for the rest of the week, we have some other events planned. Gillette Stadium, we're going to go out with the state police and the harbor unit on the boat. We'll have a K-9 demonstration, a SWAT demonstration, and then on Friday we'll have graduation. So this is one of 2 academy classes, and we look forward to the July class as well. But the kids are doing an absolute amazing job, and we're very proud of this program. I'm very proud of the officers for helping put this together, and we're proud of the kids who will be our first ever Walpole Youth Police Academy. So next week I will let you know how the graduation goes. Longview Farm. We met with staff and the Department of Children and Families at Longview and the Home for Little Wanderers, and this is in regards to recent incidents that are there. We already meet with them every quarter, but with the uptick in calls, and a lot of times we do get more calls when in transition. So when you go from just getting out of school for the summer, or when we're going into school at the end of the summer, and certain times like that. So it's perpetual. It's the kids there come from very difficult backgrounds, and we continue to work and partner with the people at Longview to make sure that public safety is kept intact there. COPS grant, so community-oriented policing services, tough to say. Grant, we put in for a grant for 2 police officers. This grant is a federal grant that would pay for 75% of the officer's salary over a period of 3 years. I want to thank the Board of Selectmen because we did a presentation to them the other day, and they supported this program, and hopefully we'll get it. It's very difficult, it's very competitive because it's a national grant, but I'm glad that we took the steps to try and get these officers, and hopefully it will pan out. Got to thank Sergeant White because he wrote a great grant. It's very long, it's like 100 pages long, so I want to thank him for all his hard work in doing that. Commendations, I want to mention and thank Lieutenant Dave Emsweiler from the Walpole Fire Department. He recognized Officer Slavin, O'Connor, and Lagoa, as well as Dispatcher Jenna Barnett, because for their efforts in responding to a call the other day where a person went into cardiac arrest and Officer Slavin administered CPR, and then ultimately the defibrillator, which helped the person regain consciousness and everything, a pulse and breathing. And I also want to thank Jenna Barnett, our dispatcher, who provided emergency medical dispatch. So we call that EMD. When somebody calls 911, Jenna was able to help people through the steps of CPR. Obviously a very traumatic time for people to deal with something like that, and Jenna does a great job, and the officers did a great job. And then ultimately we were relieved by the fire department and the paramedics who took over and took good care of the victim. So thank you for everybody on that one. So that's pretty much the announcements. And oh wait, one more. So I just got this, but District Attorney Mike Morrissey notified us that they've released a press release, and this is for a man who's been sent to state prison for flashing the volleyball team of the Norfolk County Agricultural School. This happened back in 2016, but this individual was a level 2 sex offender that moved into Walpole, almost right across the street from the Aggie, and at some point the girls volleyball team was going to another community to play, and he followed the school bus from right from the entrance exit of the Aggie and down, followed the exact path out onto Route 1, and finally at a red traffic light out on Route 1, and he continued to commit the crime of open and gross lewdness in front of the entire bus. And as a result, the investigation, witnesses did a great job in identifying his vehicle, what he looked like. There was even one of the girls on the volleyball team that snapped a picture of that just caught the front end of the car. So we were able to blow that up a little bit and get a registration plate off of it. And during this time, we also found out that the individual was a level 2 sex offender and had open cases for the same exact crime, and that he was on a GPS tracking monitor while he was on probation. So we were able to get in touch with probation, and probation was able to track that GPS. So we tracked him down to the town of Weymouth, and Officers Songen, Officer Sullivan, or Detective Songen and Sullivan, as well as Sergeant Hazeldine, worked on that case. We were able to locate him down there because he's on GPS, place him under arrest, and bring him in. So maximum penalty for open and gross lewdness is a 3-year state prison sentence, and he is going to serve, the individual, Darren Grant, 42 years of age, will serve 2.5 to 3 year prison term on this. That will be concurrent with his, because he's on probation, so it brings up his prior case. So that will be concurrent, the 2 sentences. But he will do 2.5 to 3 years in state prison. So he'll be staying in Walpole, I guess, for a while. But I want to let the community know, because when there was a lot of people who were uneasy at this time when he moved into the neighborhood, and because what happens is these are level 2 or level 3s. We notify the community, and so they were aware that this person was living it. They had concerns, and their concerns were true and were real, because he did, as a level 2 sex offender, was likely to reoffend, and he did. So he's now where he belongs, and hopefully that will help that neighborhood as far as public safety and peace down there. So now getting into the log. June 20th, a report of a fight. This was at a business on South Street, and there were mutual combatants involved. 2 men threw punches, and ultimately when we started the investigation, it was, both fingers pointed in each direction. This one started it. That one threw the first punch. This one grabbed me first. Technically, we call that mutual combatants. Ultimately, we were able to determine that neither wanted to press charges or file cross complaints or anything like that. So as I mentioned before, we dust them off and we move on from that fight, but peace restored. And one individual had left just as we were getting there. So that case is closed out. An arrest. This was an OUI, operating under the influence of alcohol, and a hit-and-run crash. And you have to give it to the victim on this one. She was not having this. She was driving on Route 1A. Another vehicle came in the opposite direction, went on the wrong side of the road. She was very good in avoiding a worse collision, but her vehicle was sideswiped. That vehicle fled the scene, and she pursued that vehicle for not too long before that same vehicle turned off some side streets, went to street, and ended up on Beethoven, which is a tight-knit neighborhood. And this vehicle ended up striking a mailbox, causing damage to the mailbox. The victim continued to monitor, but Officer Pergicante got up there very quickly, and he was able to locate this vehicle, stop the vehicle, identify the operator, give an exit order, and he found that this person was indeed intoxicated, that they had left the Lafayette House in Foxborough. Individual stated that he had 2 or 3 drinks. Officer Pergicante administered field sobriety tests, and the individual failed. And as a result of this, was arrested, booked, and when he was brought back to the police station, and took a breath test with a result of .17, which is about twice the legal limit, a little over twice the legal limit of a .08. So great job by Officer Pergicante and the victim in this case, who had some damage to the vehicle and everything. And we also got a drunk driver off the road, so great job on that. Suspicious person, this was, this call came in a little while after it actually happened, but there was an individual, female. She was walking in the area of actually picking up a vehicle by Robert's Garage on Main Street, and an individual had come up to her and asked her to give her a hug, and then ran off. The individual was described as a black male, mid-20s, with a nose ring. And ironically, we had a situation where I just suspended a license to carry for somebody, and the reason why was because they were involved in 2 recent incidents in the city of Newton for the same exact thing. And so we have a possible suspect. We're looking into this, but there really was no assault here, but just we're following up further, because in case this happens again, and we get some calls on a situation like this, and just to make sure that we're dotting all the I's and crossing all the T's on it. Suspicious person, so that was that call. A summons for shoplifting. Individual was summoned for shoplifting at Kohl's. It turns out that this individual had no prior criminal history, and as a result, and it wasn't a significant amount of merchandise that was stolen. Officer Griffin conducted the investigation and will summons an individual in for shoplifting. An arrest and a warrant, there's a default warrant involved. Officer Lagoa was conducting traffic enforcement. He conducted a query of a vehicle registration plate from his mobile data terminal. Those are the computers that are fixed inside of each cruiser. And he discovered that the owner of the vehicle that he was following had a suspended driver's license. And this suspended driver's license was the result of a prior OUI. And as a result, the license was suspended. The individual failed to show up for court. A default warrant was issued for the OUI, and the individual was stopped by Officer Lagoa and arrested. Ironically, this individual also had more open containers of alcohol inside of the vehicle, so he was charged with the drinking while driving or open container. And there's two different ways we charge with that. There's a $500 fine that can be assessed, or also under the Walpole Town bylaw. In this case, he charged with the $500 citation. So Officer Lagoa did a great job on that stop. Motor vehicle violation. This was suspicious activity. It was up at the preserve, and the caller party reported that the occupants had run away or took off when they saw the police. The police car probably was not aware of it at the time, but it turns out the vehicle was located leaving the preserve, and the plates were expired. There was non-renewable status on them. The motor vehicle ended up being towed. The people apparently just pulled off of Route 1, pulled in there and smoking marijuana, and as a result, Officer Foley had to tow the vehicle because it was unregistered and uninsured. Harassment. This occurred at Bird Park. An employer was walking through the park when he was confronted by an employee who was terminated at his business, and this individual came up, confronted him, wouldn't let him leave, stepped in front of him, continued to ask a bunch of questions. The police responded and was able to restore peace between the two individuals and make sure that the person calling was safe, and as a result, no further action will be taken. But on the harassment side of it, as I've mentioned before, harassment prevention laws, if this is a continued ongoing thing, we can help this person out further. A fight. This was a disturbance at the Duggan House at Longview Farm. There were multiple residents involved in the fight when we got the 911 call. The fight ended up being over, these were all juveniles that were involved. Somebody took another individual's cell phone and threw it, and this started a confrontation. And as this individual, the victim of the cell phone being taken, confronted the individual that took it, he stated that he was jumped by 5 individuals, and a fight broke out, and as a result, we have identified the other 5 juvenile individuals, and each will be charged with assault and battery on the victim in this case. So 5 individuals will be charged on that. On June 22nd, a disturbance at a bar on Main Street. This turned out it was a patron that was outside. It was yelling and carrying on in the lot, kind of a noise complaint or disturbance, and police went up there. There was a responsible party with that individual. That individual was not driving, and they were released from there. Peace restored on that one. Summons. An individual was summoned by Officer Haber. This is for operating with a revoked driver's license, and the motor vehicle was towed. A larceny. This is from a business on Main Street, and they reported that there was a $1,000 shipment that was sent there, but it was missing. And as a result, this one is still under investigation, but there's a possibility that someone may have stolen the package, but they did not receive the shipment, and so we're looking into that one further. Walpole Park South, there was 2 stolen chairs that were stolen from one of the businesses up there. Detectives were able to obtain some surveillance video and were able to identify a suspect. However, I won't comment on that anymore right now because that investigation is still ongoing. Moving on to a emotionally disturbed person. This was an individual suffering from suicidal ideation that it got out that this person was likely in Walpole, not from Walpole, but that he was having some issues, had disclosed to their counselor, and we were able to track this individual over to Randolph, and Randolph PD was able to do a well-being check at the home, and it turns out that he went through an evaluation process and he was okay. So in this case, everything turned out fine, and it does get stressful for the officers because time is of the essence. If the person's really down like that, they try very hard to locate them as quickly as possible and make sure that they get them the resources that they need. But they did follow through with this one. I'm glad they did, because they located him in Randolph, and it turns out that everything will be fine with him. On June 23rd, there was an OUI, operating under the influence of liquor. This turned out to be a summons because of medical issues later on, but an individual, a female from Waltham, was driving on Route 1. They were pulled over to the side of the road. One individual, according to witnesses, jumped out of the vehicle and ran into the woods and was hiding in the woods when the police were showing up. Another individual was located in the back seat, highly intoxicated, and the driver herself was highly intoxicated. And Patrolman Powers was the first one up there, and he gave a field sobriety test, which they failed miserably, but also in this time of the field sobriety test and upon arrest, threatened the police officers physically, threatened harm to them, and then started to suffer some type of medical issue in addition to being intoxicated. So best course of action was to notify the ambulance, and the ambulance came down and transported the operator to the hospital. So as a result, obviously no booking took place, but what we'll do later on is we will summons the medical records, and we'll summons that person to court for OUI. A disturbance, this was a report of a possible domestic disturbance. It was occurring inside of the car. There was thought, people in traffic thought they might have been assaulting each other. It turns out that Officer Murphy located that vehicle, stopped it, and both occupants denied any assault, and there was no physical evidence or anything suggesting that this had taken place. So separated both parties. They seemed to be okay, and were ultimately they were released. So that case was cleared. An unwanted person, this was in East Walpole. An individual called and wanted this person out of their home. The officers responded, and the individual who was being called upon in the first place had left prior to our arrival. So peace was restored there. Assault and battery, an individual was arrested for assault and battery, and this was following an assault and battery where the person also grabbed the person by the neck, and as a result, this individual was arrested. Larceny, this occurred at a restaurant on Main Street, and the victim had gone into the restaurant, left their pocketbook inside of the store, and left and didn't realize it for about an hour after they left. So they went back and they found out that the pocketbook was there, but there was $420 missing out of it. Officer Powers took the report on this, and we are following up on the investigation with it. You know, we always like to hear those stories when somebody loses their purse or their pocketbook or their wallet, and it's returned with all of the money intact and their credit cards intact. Unfortunately, that always doesn't happen, and someone obviously took advantage of this. The pocketbook was left behind, but somebody went in and stole this victim's money, a significant amount of money, and that's very unfortunate. So we will continue to investigate this and try to identify any suspects if possible. Harassment, this was just an ongoing issue. As I mentioned, the harassment prevention orders, this is strike number 2. On the next one, if this harassment issue continues, they will be qualified for harassment prevention order, as is like a restraining order type thing. However, not yet at this time. A traffic complaint, report of an erratic operator. This is in Walpole Center, and the vehicle was located and stopped by Officer Giblin. They were checked out, and they were fine, and they were sent on their way. And as opposed to the erratic operators where they might be an impaired driver, most of the time we do those, you find out that the person's, just not the best driver, or they're doing other things, they're texting, they're not paying attention, distracted for whatever reason, but in this case not impaired. So I'm glad Officer Gibbon was able to locate that vehicle. A noise complaint, it came in as a noise complaint. Officers got down there, they found 2 people that were arguing, that were intoxicated, and it never works out that way. So the officers intervened, and they were able to They didn't have to put the person into protective custody because they were able to take the intoxicated person to another location, a safe haven, another home where they were going to be looked after and they were going to be fine. So the noise complaint side of it, as how it came in, peace was restored there, but the individual was also taken away from there and brought to another location, and everything was fine for the rest of the night. Beyond the lookout, Rentham PD, they reported a smash and grab. This was at Wampum Liquors at Route 1A and Route 121, and it occurred at about 3:45 a.m. in the morning. What were stolen were Newport cigarettes by 2 male parties with backpacks, shoulder bags, and they were wearing dark sweatshirts covering their faces or hoodies. Both fled on foot in unknown direction. Now, if that sounds familiar, those sound like this exact same guys that hit our gas station in Walpole last week. It was also a smash and grab. They smashed in through the front door. They stole Newport cigarettes and they fled on scene. We have surveillance video of them. We are continuing to investigate on that, but it sounds like it could be the same suspects involved in this case. We do have a vehicle that was involved that had Rhode Island license plates on it, and so we'll continue to follow up and work with Rentham on that one. An accident not investigated because this was a report of a box truck. It struck a telephone pole and then it left the scene, and the vehicle only had superficial damage according to witnesses, but also no damage to the pole. We did check the area, but that vehicle was gone on arrival and no plate involved or anything, so we couldn't follow up further. Community policing at Barnes & Noble, Officer Slavin went up there. This was a scheduled community event. She went up there and just helped out and engaged the community through this event, and we thank Michelle. Michelle is one of our newer officers, as I mentioned, along with Officer Murphy. Which I should also mention, they both just came off of their field training officer program, 12 weeks of working with another police officer as they come out of the academy to transition them from the academy to working out in the street by themselves. And they've both successfully done that, and Officer Slavin and Murphy are both very well versed in community policing, and we're glad to have them aboard. A well-being check. This was a check by the officers' request of the family, and the party turned out to be okay. They were there. We do these a lot, and I just throw them in there because it's something that we want to remind the community that, you know, if they live out of town or out of state, they're worried about a loved one, they haven't heard from them or whatever else, if they're off of their routine. Always a pleasure for us to go there, knock on the door, and check on things and see if their well-being is okay. So. An immediate threat, Officer Paulon served an immediate threat suspension, originated out of Sharon. I mentioned these last week, and sometimes, you know, immediate threats are something that I have to sign off on in the department, and many times they might be because of just, you know, different certain situations. It could be a medical issue where they're not, that's causing problems where they're not driving safely. It could be an OUI. It could be something where drugs are involved, and they're doing this while they're operating a motor vehicle. And what it does is it sets up an immediate suspension of the license through the registry, so that the registry can set up a hearing and look further into this situation to see if the person really is capable of driving safely. And the reason why we do this is really to protect the motoring public and to make sure that other motorists are protected and safe from the operation of other people, and that's what we had to do in this case. Assist a citizen. Somebody reported it was a young boy. He was appeared to be crying on the side of the road. The officers went down there. He was fine. A little situation happened, visiting friends, and the mom was notified of the well-being check, and it was fine. So just a young man having a crisis type of situation, but he was all right. Community policing, Officer Doherty attended a block party, and he was able to engage some of the neighborhood youth. They got to hang around in the police car a little bit, conduct some radio checks with Walpole Control, and that was a good time. We like to go to those things, and thank you for people who invite us just to stop by the block parties, and thank you for Officer Doherty for doing that. A loitering call, Officer Murphy spoke with an individual from Norfolk. Her vehicle was located at Clark's Pond. The lot does close after dark, so he did what he's supposed to do, and there's a loitering situation, and moved that person along. Community policing, Officers Griffin and Haber, they conducted a scheduled community policing event at Walmart. They did the car seat installations, and as I mentioned, they're trained in doing that. So if you have a newborn, or you just have a new car seat and you still have kids that need to be in a car seat, they can help you with that installation and make sure that it's installed properly, because they are trained to do that. So June 26th, officers responded to Bird Park. It was an out-of-control male. They got there and found out that it was an individual with some special needs, had assaulted somebody, and the officers were able to intervene successfully, meet with kind of everybody involved, and just kind of de-escalate the situation that occurred. And so we got several calls on this, but because it's alarming to some of the other people obviously around, but our officers are very well trained in dealing with these types of situations, and did a great job. Officer Murphy was actually down there on that call. Found property. This was someone located they thought it was a firearm, but when we got there, we discovered that it was a pellet gun. It was kind of located in a strange area. Officer Murphy went up there and picked that up and returned it to the station. If somebody's missing a pellet gun, we have it. It's known, if somebody's missing it. Concert. So the U2 concert was this week at Foxborough Stadium, Gillette Stadium. Officer Murphy and Officer Doherty and Powlon conducted traffic enforcement and a little bit of traffic down at South Walpole Square after the concert gets out. We are still trying to get details from the stadium, because there are still situations where you have a lot of livery and Uber vehicles and that type of thing that converge on South Walpole, and can cause some problems for traffic for our residents down there. But we are still working on that. An arrest, a suspended license. An individual from Foxborough was stopped and arrested by Officer Lagoa following a history of this. So Officer Lagoa chose to arrest on this case, and he did so on the suspended license. A drug overdose, responded to a location in North Walpole, Sector 4. An individual had taken excessive amounts of prescription or pharmaceuticals, and was ultimately transported by ambulance to the hospital. And this brings our fatal overdose, or not our fatal overdose, but our total overdoses since 2011 at 145, with 30 fatalities. And on that note, I will mention that the Walpole Drug and Alcohol Coalition is going to have a vigil for people who have suffered from overdoses, and this is going to be on Wednesday, July 12th at 7 p.m. It's going to be at the Walpole Town Common. It is a time for families of people who are suffering from substance use or substance use disorder, and get together and even talk about stigma, so that people don't have to feel, they don't have to feel ashamed of this situation. Drug addiction is not a character flaw. There's environmental factors involved, there's biological factors involved, there's a lot of other things that are involved. So we need to remember that, and they're going to have a vigil for this, and they're going to meet at the Town Common on the 12th. So if anyone's interested, I think that'll be a nice night. Larceny by false pretense. Walpole Park South Company, an individual fraudulently ordered products valued at over $23,000. The company name, the company is from one state that ordered this material, but that was sent to another state. And we've seen this happen before. Somebody is acting under the guise of a certain company, and they order up all these different things of value, but they have it shipped somewhere else. And they hadn't picked up on this. Payment hadn't been made yet. Delivery was done. And now left with a loss of over $23,000. So this is still being investigated, but now you got multiple states, et cetera, involved, so it can be a little bit complex. Medical emergency, that was, I mentioned that, Officer Slavin and Dispatcher Barnett and Officer Lagoa and O'Connor being involved with that, and I thank them again for their work on that case. Longview, missing person, that was a walkaway. Officer Lagoa was able to locate that person quickly and return them. On June 26th, we have an arrest, a suspended license, but also possession of a Class B substance. An individual from Medway was arrested by Officer Bieberman. This was for operating after suspension. And the possession of Class B was found incident to arrest, and that was Suboxone, which he was not prescribed. Many times used to treat opiate addiction and help them wean off of that drug, but also commonly abused. So people, it does still have opiates, so it's people use it, and they do also abuse that drug as well. So that individual was charged with that. Larceny and receiving stolen property. This was occurring at the Walpole UPS store. We have investigated multiple larcenies over the past 6 to 7 months there. UPS security brought us online with this after several complaints where packages were not arriving at their location, their destination. It's happened multiple times. So there was an ongoing investigation still taking place. The most recent one involved Norwood Police Department, where 18 cell phones were ordered. The 18 cell phones never arrived at Norwood, and so an investigation started. Several of the phones were located as being turned on in the state of New York, and the investigation led us there, and then back to this area, in the area of Sharon, where we suspect that it could be an employee, it could be an internal type of thing. However, we're still looking into that, and that investigation is ongoing at this time. A verbal, a domestic at the Walpole Motel, officers responded. It was a verbal between two individuals, and peace was restored actually by the time we responded there, which is good. But kind of funny, one of the individuals involved, when Officer Maganello, the first officer, arrived on scene, the man was outside, he was eating a steak, and he said to the officer that he had perfect timing, and asked him and invited him if he wanted to have some steak, and the officer declined, obviously, but I thought that was a little bit funny. But anyways, peace was restored there on arrival, and everything turned out fine. Sex offender registry, an individual from Attleboro came into the station, notify us that he stays in Walpole about once a week. He stays with a friend in Walpole, and as a result, we booked him in, processed him, because if in Massachusetts, if you go over a certain amount of days where you stay in another community outside of your own community, so this individual, for instance, from Attleboro coming to Walpole, if you're here in Walpole more than, let's say, 7 days throughout the year, you still have to register here. So that individual had to come in and register. And he's in compliance with what he's supposed to do. So that's that. So that's it for this week, June 27th. I'm Chief John Carmichael. I thank you for joining me with Walpole 5-0, and I'll see you next time. Thank you.